modelling bench, and here we are now back with part 5 of this Meng 9K37M1 BUK air defence missile system. I just want to start the video by pointing out to any of our younger viewers, bear in mind this product is for users aged above 14 only. This is not a toy. So this is part 5. I've done a little work off camera since part 4 because basically it was just a case of fillers and drying and stuff, and you can see around here I've gone round with Mr. Surfacer around the edges and basically killed all the seams off and sanded them back. There was quite a bit of mismatch along here, as you can see. It sort of floats up and down, but I mean it is underneath, it doesn't really matter, but I did want to make sure it looked good. I also had some seam issues here where there had been a bit of mould core shift on the sides, so that's been dealt with. There's some separate parts here which actually affected the look of this outside area. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be ridges there or not, but I've just sanded them smooth. And if you remember, I put some plastic card in here because there were some massive ejector pin sort of draft sliders down there. If you haven't seen that already, go back to part 4 and have a look. I managed to snap that piece off there, which was not good. I've had a look to fit it afterwards. You can't. You can't actually fit it afterwards. If you remember, I'd already done the radar. I've assembled this little part here, which is the mount at the back for the antenna. So gone round that. So Mr. Surfacer, not a very good fit on those two parts, unfortunately, which is a bit of a theme with this kit. Here on all these access doors, if we look in the instructions here, we go straight to the right page. Here we've got all these doors with all these handles, and then we go over the page and we've got yet more handles. These little handles are tiny, and rather than just being, I'll try and show you a close-up, rather than just being the normal sort of round welded on bar, you can see they're a fabricated handle. So what I've done, I actually cut them off the sprue, glued them on, and then I've gone around and cleaned up the sprue nibs. There's some pretty big sprue attachments on these. Let's see if I can find them here and I'll show you. There are some spares. Here we go. So you can see on here there's some pretty big sprue attachment points on them, and they require quite a lot of cleanup, and you need to be really careful. I'll show you here. If your snips are a bit worn and you go in a bit too close, what you may find is as you cut it, you may, where have we gone? Here we are. You may rip away part of that sidewall. That happened on a couple of mine, so you can see I've gone over them with Mr. Surfacer just to check they look good. Also, once again, another theme with this kit, the holes they go in are massive compared to the pins that are on the actual handles. So I've glued them in place with extra thin, and then once that dried, I've come in afterwards with some thin super glue and run that in from behind to try and block in the holes, because as you can see there, the holes are huge that they're going into, and you can see part of the hole looking from the front. So whether it will show up under paint and weathering or not, I don't know, but I don't want to take that chance. And this is all about, you know, this is all about making models the right way rather than cutting corners. So in the instructions, they suggest you fit these doors at this stage. I don't want to do that because basically if I do, I'm going to start breaking off the handles and stuff. So I'm going to leave them off and work on this as it is. Now, if we go back to the start, Coldplay song there, we've done this, we've done step 18, we've done step 19 and then snap that part off. So now I need to look at this. So I need D8, D3 and D9. Not sure if I want to put D9 in place. D9 is going to go over this pivot area. I want to basically see if I can come up with something so that I can actually remove the launch mechanism. The way the launch mechanism fits, you've got this beam that goes across the center between these two square lugs here, and then basically these are going to go into polycaps either side like this, and then that's actually permanently fixed into place. I want to be able to remove it, so I'm tempted to come up with a pin system in here so that I can actually push a pin in, so I can slot it in like so, push the pin in, and then it's done. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I did measure these. I can't remember what diameter they are. I think they might have been 1.3, 1.4 to 1.5. So I think I've got some 1.4 brass rod. So it'll be okay just to basically cut that away, or even on the other side. Yeah, they're both the same. They've both got this radius end on them, so I'd have to sort of put a radius on the end of a piece of brass and push that through, but that'll be absolutely fine, and will look absolutely fine once it's had a bit of Mr. Surface around it, or a bit of paint or something. So I'll go and get these parts off, and then I'll come back and we'll discuss fitting them. Okay, we've got the parts off the sprue now and cleaned up the nibs. I've noticed on here, this part D3, again a theme with this kit, we've got a flashy ejector pin mark there, so we just want to make sure we don't have any flash sticking out stopping it going down. And we've also got an ejector pin mark there right next to that locating pin, so we just want to basically make sure that's not going to cause us any issues with the fitting. So I'm just going to scrape that away. There we go. So that should go now. We've also got sprue nibs on this angle here, and once again these premium hobby sanding blocks are excellent for the job. There we go. So we'll put that on, and that just sits like that. And then because I don't have any doors on the sides, I'm able to come in with some extra thin and just about reach the holes where the glue's got to go. There we go. So that's glued in place now from behind, so we don't get any glues and out the edges, which is a good thing. Then this part here, this part D8, it's showing us it's got a special location, and you can see that it goes on, and we've got these two little sort of rivets at the bottom. Oh no, we've got rivets top and bottom. I see it's showing us that the vents actually point downwards. So so that's going to go on like so. And if you notice, I put the parts in place and then apply the glue, and that way we don't get the using issues. Okay, so that's that on there. And then this part at the front doesn't actually block anything up. I thought it was going to block the holes up, so, but it's going to be a bit of an awkward fit, I think, because it just sort of sits on top of here like so. I'm just going to gently dab some extra thin onto it, and then I can nudge it into place like so, like that. You can see that you need it kind of flush on the front, I'm guessing. It will butt up behind that bracket there. So it's going to sit like that. So that's that step done. As I say, I'm not going to glue these doors on. So we'll go over the page now. We're not going to glue those doors on. We've already done all this, so now we need to look at getting these parts off the sprue and getting this hydraulic cylinder fitted into here. Alright, I'm back. I've got these three parts off the sprue cleaned up, and these are basically the mountings for the hydraulic cylinder. Remember, we did the cylinder with the steel ram. There we go. And basically the steel ram needs to come out and go in the spares box. Well, the kit box, not the spares box. These parts here, now as you know, I've done a lot of work in this area with some plastic card and sanding and stuff to get rid of all these horrible ejector pin marks and everything. There's some pretty serious dry fitting required in here. What I found on mine was, on this side the actual part was too wide and wouldn't fit in the slots, so I just thinned it down, and on this end it was like a little bit too long, but that could be because of my thing with the plastic card. And I've just noticed the plastic card needs some more glue along that edge because it's starting to just lift. So basically we need to do lots of dry fitting, And then what we can do is assemble this on here, making sure we get the right way around. So with the pipes upwards, like so, we want this part with the external bit added, this lump on the side, we want that to go on there. Now the holes in these parts are too small for the pins to go through, so they need to be opened up slightly, and the pins have a slight taper on them, so I've used the end of my number 10A blade to do that. And then basically what we've got to do is fit this in. Now I've just put these on, here we go, that's how they go, like that, okay? And then what we're going to do is come along and put this through the hole like so. That's right, through the hole with those pipes facing backwards, and then put the back end in first. And as you can see, it's pretty awkward to get it all to go together. This is going to fight me all the way because the camera's on. And then get that to slot in there, get that one to slot in there, and then push them into their holes in that beam back there. And they all kind of, certainly on my kit, they lock into place without any glue. And then you can see we've got the cylinder then in there. We want to make sure the cylinder is going to sit nice and square, so that side needs to go up a bit. So it's going to take a bit of fettling and fitting, but you want to make sure when you put the cylinder down, it's pointing in a straight line there, and then when you put it up, it's pointing in a straight line there. So get some glue on there, get it all fettled and fitted and stuff, and then let it go off, and then we'll have to do any remedial work afterwards. Like you can see, need some Mr. Surfacer in there where we've got some gaps. But yeah, other than that, just sort of, I can't really suggest any more than what I'm doing. So I'm going to put some Tamiya extra thin in these joints here. Now we want to make sure we've got plenty of glue on here because we want it to be fairly strong, because it's going to be supporting the weight of the missile launcher, particularly if you're going to have it displayed with the missiles in a vertical position about to fire. So you can push that in like that now, so that's going to sit in there lovely. Now we can look here, make sure that cylinder is vertical, and then put it down, make sure it's facing forward, get it all square. You don't want it off to one side. There we go, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. In fact, that needs to go up a touch on that side. So I'll just have a little play with this, get it all right, and then we'll come back with, not sure what's next. We've got some more parts to add onto here, so that's what I'll come back with. Yes, we have some colour, and basically what I've done, this area here, which is here, it's got a lot of bits and pieces going into it, which is going to make it very, very complex. So I always do this on kits. If I see an area that's starting to become more and more enclosed, like a very, very tight engine bay or something, I go in with XF27 black green. Pretty much whatever colour the model is going to be at the end, I always go in with this black green, because it's a kind of a dark colour without being black. And without being any other colour really, it's just a very, very dark green. And when this is sprayed over with whatever colour I use, even if it was sand, any areas that are exposed will show as this sort of dark shadow, if you like, rather than black. And also the other problem is, like I'll be doing this as version A, I think, with the 3-colour camo. You don't want to see this bright tan plastic coming through. Not complaining about the bright tan plastic, because let's face it, Meng's green plastic is pretty bloody awful. This tan plastic I find is great to work with. So what I've done is I've sprayed all around there, because we're going to be putting lots of bits in there. And also this part here, this is like a hood, it's D19. This is going to go onto here, and you can see the paint's not even dry yet. And that's going to sit on there, and obviously you've got a gap up under there where you can look in. So I wanted to make sure that in there was all sealed in as well. So I've got that held in place, and I just want to check that I've actually got rid of these sprue nibs on the outside properly. So just run round there with a sanding stick just to remove the paint as well, which will help. But I want to make sure, because these sprue nibs went up onto the side, I want to make sure I've got nothing showing. That's okay. So what I can do now is just plonk this on. As you can see, the paint is still tacky and the sanding dust is sticking to it. So I can plonk that on there. And this is obviously a hinged part, so we're not after a perfect seam. So saying that, I'm actually tempted to put some glue in these 3 pinholes, and hopefully that'll be enough to hold it if I just place it in. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold it down, and then we can leave the separation line around the outside then. So we'll see how that goes. Now down here we've got this part here, D7, which is another grill, which is going on. Just check I've got rid of the sprue nib. I have. So I'm just going to drop that one on there as per the instructions. And just run a drop of cement along it like so. So that's in place. And then here we've got this pipe and this unit here, some sort of gearbox or something, I'm guessing, and it's saying we've got these black 1 and 2 again, so it's telling us to put this pipe in first. And as we can see, the pipe goes with this lug sticking upwards, and it goes into a hole in the back of the bulkhead. So what I think I'll do is put a drop of glue into that hole, and then I should be able to grab this with my tweezers and put it in there, and then it should go into a hole in the side. There we go, which is in there. So I'm just going to put a drop of glue in there to hold that, and then push that one down, and then this one's going to go over the top. I should have put some green paint inside there, but not to worry. In fact, I will put some green paint in there, just put it on with a brush, because as I say, these areas of tan plastic can be a complete pain. Just got this brush here, pretty rubbishy old thing. So I'm just going to run around the inside of there. Before we glue this on, I'll put the top back on the paint. And then this is just going to drop into those holes. Just put some glue there, let it capillary round. And there we go. So that's that done. So that is step 23 taken care of. Looks like that's holding in place, so that's cool. So now looking at step 24, we're adding some more detail parts here. We've got D30, D31 going in the corners. Then we've got some more detail parts going down in here. And then we've got these light units, it's looking like. Light units or plug units or something. So we'll have a look at all these parts, get them off, and then I'll be back for that section. Right, more green paint. As you can see, I've painted inside here because when that goes on here, you can see the inside face of that, so I've done that. And also this part here, D4, this actually covers the pipe I put in earlier. So I've painted the pipe, painted the bottom of that cover, so now that's just going to be fitted on, and I'm just going to remove a tiny bit of paint from that edge just to give the glue something to work with. And then if we come in with the tweezers and just drop this in place, it's all getting a bit tight in here now. That should just sit there on those two legs, like so, and then I can put some extra thin where those two legs are, and hopefully that will capillary in and under and hold that in place. And I'm just going to give it a little lift because it's gone down on a slight angle by the look of it. I'm just going to put a drop of glue in there. That should help it lock in place. So there we go. That's hidden the pipe and everything we put in earlier, so never mind. And now this one, this is going to go, not quite sure how I'm going to hold this, but this basically sits in here on this leg. There's a little leg in there that it goes on. There we go, that's in. I could just put a drop of extra thin on there and then give that push down, get it as low as I possibly can so that you can't see down inside it. There's also some nasty seam lines on the outside of this part which needs sanding. So and now that when I did that, I pushed that one down, so get that one back to shape where we want it to be, like so. There we go. I'm going to have to put some more extra thin in here because it doesn't seem to have gone down. There we are. That still pivots, nothing's in the way. Get that back straight, like so. There we go. So that's that step done. These parts here, C72 and A1, I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they've got 4 holes in them, and then there's these bits here with holes in them as well. So I'm not sure if they're smoke generators or what. But you can see on the top, the way it's designed, instead of having it a flat part going on, they've got it kind of wedging over a leg. So we're going to have to put some Mr. Service in there and deal with that now. I don't know why they couldn't just have it as a flat part going on. It's a bit of a shame. And then going over the page, we can see we've done all this. We've done all this. This part here, D10, needs to go on, and then we need to add this beam, which I've got here, and the beam is going to go on that way round. Whoops. Like so. That's going to sit on there. And I'm quite tempted to paint the back of that, although we're getting there okay, I think. And then we've got this part here, D10, which is here, and I think this is going to need painting. You may not wish to do what I do with the painting, but it's something I've always done. It's how I model, and it's how I ensure that when you look at stuff you don't see any bare plastic. Now again, you see we've got a horrible mould seam on the top of here, so I'm going to take my Matador stick, it's a 400 grade, I'm just going to sand that away like so. There we go. Yeah, there's plenty of cleanup required on that part. Just like that, and then that is going to go into those two holes there. Like so. So yeah, I'm going to paint the back of that, and I'm going to paint the front of that beam area as well. So more painting there. We've got D41, D42. And these look pretty flimsy. So I'm going to cut away that first. And then the same here. Take them off the sprues, and then get rid of these sprue nibs. Same on there. And then this is 41, so that's going to sit in there. There's two little stood up pegs, and there's two little cutouts for that to go in, and that's just going to sit like that. So that won't need any pre-painting. So just put some glue in there. And again, they're very loose fit, so you need to make sure they're square. Get rid of the sprue nib on that one. And again on this back face. Like so. And then just put this one down again in those small holes. And then a couple of little drops of extra thin. My bottle must be getting low, I'm not picking any up. And I'm just going to take a straight edge and make sure they're square. Oh, they're actually staggered, so what I sometimes do here is use a wider rule, and then I can hold that on there like so, and look at this edge compared to that line and do the same here. There we go. So that's them square. And then we've got another part here, C22. Which is there. As you can see, this has become like a lot of military kits. It's just a myriad now of tiny parts going on. Remove that nib. Okay, so there's no mold marks or anything much to speak of to get rid of there, and that is going to sit down in that little part there. So I need to, we've got an ejector pin mark on the back which has got flash on it, surprise surprise. So I'm just going to cut that away, get in there with a round knife and just scrape that away. And then that should fit on there. Like so. So I'm going to put a drop of glue in there. There we are, that's in. That needs to be vertical and central. So that's step 26 done. I'm not going to glue the radar on because I'm going to be painting that separately. But basically that's going to fit onto there like that. So you can see that's a lovely looking addition. Then when we've got these doors on and everything, we can see that it's starting to look very Russian, very businesslike. And I think the time taken to do all these handles and eyelets and get everything nice and sort of, you know, squared up. I notice I've bent that. Let's just pull that over. I'll put some glue in there. I actually didn't glue the clamp side of them down, so I'm just going to do that now. And then make sure they're all square because I don't want them getting knocked off. So yeah, we can see it's all looking very busy, and the time taken, I think, to make sure all the cleanup's done well and everything's lovely, I'm sure that's going to really pay off. So that doesn't look kind of like quite right there, sticking up like that. You'd think it would be lower down, but when you actually look here, you can see that it is correct. It is actually sitting up. So there we go. So I'll get some paint on them. I've already built this unit up here, so that will need some sorting out. That's in here like so. And that's just going to sit, so that goes that way round, and that once I've got the joints done and everything, it's sanded out, that's just going to clip in there, and then that just sits in that poly cap on there like so. So that's all a fairly simple construction. We've got this here to make up, which looks like some sort of cylinder of some sort, and then we've got these two here. It's telling us we've got to do the same on the other side, so we'll add them in, and then we're into the launcher. So it looks like the launching side of the thing is nearly done. So I'll get some paint on them, get them on, get all these bits done, and then I'll come back then. Okay, so here we go, another day. What I've done here, I've done quite a bit. If you remember, I said I was going to paint this and glue it on. I've done that. Painted the back of that part there, and fitted these little parts here and fitted that cylinder on. And you can also see here that I've done the Mr. Surfacer on those bits there. I've actually worked out now these are the unions that these pipes go into, so that's where they're going to be. But yeah, there's an awful seam line on the top, so just, you know, put some Mr. Surfacer in there, rub it out nice and flat, nice and square with a skinny stick, and then coming in with a sharp pointed knife, just run along at an angle. Don't go straight because you'll dig in, at an angle, and just scrape in that sharp line. With fillers and stuff, Mr. Surfacer and paint, you can't always get your nice sharp lines with sanding sticks and stuff, so what I do is just come with a knife, and if you are really unsure of yourself, you can use one of these curved shaped blades. Again, hold it at an angle and it will go into the corner beautifully and just give you that sharp line. Not putting any pressure on, it's just to take away the filler or whatever it is in the corner, gives you that sharp line. So there we go with that. I still haven't glued the doors on, as you can see. Now I took these off the sprue. These are these little vinyl pipes that go on, and I thought before I do that I better look at this mechanism. Now my plan is, what they would have you do in the kit is put a couple of polycaps in here, one in there as you can see, and then basically come along and glue this together. Alright, they would have you glue this together around it like that. So you put one in, where we go, one in there, and glue it together, and then it's there permanently. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to paint all this off the model and then assemble it all in the end, and then we can make sure we get paint in around here and everything looks good. And if we want to add any detail or do any weathering, whatever, then we've got all that exposed and we can. So basically my idea has been to replace one of these pins. So what I've done, get that out of the way, got a bit of brass rod here. You see, this is a piece of brass rod. It's 1.5mm diameter, same diameter as the pin on here. And what I've done is cut the pin off and then drilled it out on this side. So you can see there it's drilled out 1.5mm, and then on here we've got the remains of the, on here you've got a dome on that side. So what I've done, I put this up in my little Tamiya drill, like so. Just stick that in the collet, tighten it up, and then with a sanding stick put on the radius on the front of it that you want, just like so. Okay, so that's that done. And back on the rack. And then, by the way, if you do have one of these, great place to store it. What I've done is just got a panel pin nailed into the front of my paint rack, and then all I do is just hang it on that panel pin in one of those slots, so it makes it easy storage and easy access. So now we've got a radius on the front of that pin, as you can see there. Okay, then that pin, once it's all assembled, we'll push in through there like so, and then we'll just get it to the right depth where we like it, drop a super glue around it, give it some sanding, whatever, and that's it, it's in there permanently. We have to make sure we don't push it in too far. So that is my plan. So basically what I will do is glue this together like that. So imagine that's glued together. Luckily it's a tight fit. So I can come along, hook that in there like so, push that over there, and then I can then push this pin in, and that will be it, all done and in there, ready to pivot up and down. So that is my plan of action. So what I'm able to do now, make sure we don't lose this pin, I'm going to put it in my parts box there, parts box being a dog food tray, and then I'm going to glue this together. Now again, we don't want glue oozing out. In fact, before I do that, I'm going to fit these vinyl pipes. Now if we go back in our instructions to here, doesn't matter which side we do, they're both the same. You can see what they're telling us to do is fit this pipe onto here, fit this underneath these A5 parts here, the shrouds, and then glue them down onto these lugs on here. So I've got the parts off the sprue and cleaned them up, and they're going to glue down on here like so. Okay, just like that. Now I'm just looking now. It's not actually clear. It looks like the actual lug on there goes into the slot in the front, the forwardmost slot. So if that's the case, that's going to go down like that. And I'm guessing that vinyl pipe is going to sit, okay, it's split. So the vinyl pipe is going to sit either side. There's this little raised lug in the center here, so the vinyl pipe is going to sit either side of that. So what I'm going to do is this way up, this gets hooked, this is going to go through here, so that one's going to go through there, and that one's going to go through there. Remember, I did all this. They tell you in the instructions to fit this before you fit these side parts, but I wanted to do this afterwards so that I could get in there and miss the surfacer and stuff. Now, these are going to glue into here. Like so. He says. So they're going to glue into there like so. So all I'm going to do is put a drop of extra thin on the end of here, and then push this up into there. That should grab that any second now. Okay, so I'll leave that on like that, and then do the same on the other side. So I'm going to turn that over and hold it down with my great big stumpy thumb. Put a drop of extra thin on the back, a little bit more. And then slot that into there. Like so. And then I can let this come over. In fact, I better let that glue dry for a minute. So I get the other one done the same, and then I'll come back to you when I'm ready. Okay, so you can see I've done this one now. That's all glued down. Worth bearing in mind with these parts here, these A5 parts, these covers, they fit like a prick in a top hat. So basically, get it over that lug, get the two pipes over that lug, get it glued down, get some extra thin under it, and then you can mess around with positioning it, getting it square and everything, and try and make sure you get all four the same. Now I've got mine favoured towards the outside. You can see it's more to the right there rather than having it in the middle, because that's the way the pipes fit the most neatly around that raised plastic lug. So that's that one in place. I think on the next one I'll use quick settings to get this so I can get this moving. There we go. That's going to sit like that. There we go, that one needs a tweak. If you do that, if you want to get rid of the glue mark, just put some more extra thin over it, and you'll generally find the glue mark will disappear. Because all the glue mark is the plastic been molten, and then you're sort of tearing the surface. So if you paint some more over it, it kind of levels it out. Alright, and then a drop of extra thin quick setting in there. Not too much, just a drop. You don't want to go mad with the glue with these vinyl parts, because you will dissolve them. And then that pin can go into that hole. Just hold it in place. And there we are. Job done. So we're all ready now to fit those. Well, when we're ready we can fit those. This one really doesn't want to stay in place. It doesn't want to play ball. So I'm going to have to put a clamp. I don't want to put a clamp on it because the glue will lose out if I put a clamp on it. I'm just going to pull these vinyl hoses over around. There we go. So now we can come along and we can glue these together. In fact, what I might do is put that pivot in first, because that might be a bit difficult. No, it'll be fine. In fact, I'll take that pivot out and put it in my parts box. Actually, it's not going to fall out, so I'll leave it in there. If I can't pull it out, it's certainly not going to fall out. What's this side one? Yep. So you can get these glued together now. So I'm going to run some extra thin down there, run some down there, and down there. And then we can put it on a flat surface and we can check that everything is square, which is far better than doing it on the model, because now we know that everything's flat. I've got no rock, there's no rock that way on them, no rock that way, and I've got no rock that way. Yes, I have got a slight amount, so give that a little twist. I'm happy with that. And as I say, what I can do now is come along, slot that into there like that, and then put that pin in this side, and then we're good to go. So there we are. Right, moving on to the instructions. Here we can see, got this bit here which I've just talked about. I'm not going to bother putting those poly caps in yet. Not going to put the RAM on there yet. I've just shown you the pin won't fall out, so that's okay. Obviously not going to connect these up, because basically they're separate, so that's separate from that. So turning over the page, we've got this unit here. Now I've had a look at this and done some work on it. Basically what they're asking you to do is build this up here, and this unit is attached to here. It swivels around, and they're asking you to build it up. You've got a pivot which goes onto the back, which is here. You can see it's there, it's unpainted there. And then you've got another pivot which goes into the bottom of here, which is actually glued in there. So as you can see, what I've done, I've taken this pivot here, C16, I've taken C15 and C3, and I've opened up the hole slightly in C3 and then assembled them. And the reason I've done that is once these parts are in here, you can see this is basically the assembly here. This is C86, C26 and C44. This is basically the pivot for the antenna. Okay, so I've glued that together, done the mister surface around the seams, it requires it, it's got some nasty gaps. Then I've taken C3 and C15 and C16, put the C3 and C15 around the pivot, and then glued the pivot into the base, as you can see there. It goes into a hole in the bottom, and then this thing here is intentionally bent. Bit weird, I know. I don't know why, but it is. It's supposed to be that shape. So what I've done there is put that in so it's fitted in, and there's a lug it goes on. I'm looking at it now. Is it intentionally bent? Yes, it is. You can see it there. You can see what we're looking at is this. And you can see it there, it's intentionally over on an angle, which is strange. So basically I fitted that, and then the reason I opened up the hole slightly in C3 is to give me a little bit of play, so I've got a bit of slop. So now what I can do is, once everything is on and all this is on, I can come along and I can put basically this C3 goes in the middle here. So I can push that in there, bring this one down, put that pin through like that. And there you can see that is fitted on there now. Rather than have that all hanging about, or dealing with a glue joint here after it's all assembled, or trying to assemble it all and it's all trying to be fiddly and stuff, this is what I've done. I try to do sub-assemblies as far as I can. And whenever I can, I will always tell you about it, and then it will help you build your model. And not easier, but in doing this, what we've done, we've eliminated the need for a glue joint here once it's painted. We've eliminated the need to try and hold it all together and and you know the weight of that's going to probably try and pull that off while the glue's going off. And then here we got all this fiddly stuff going in, and you know you don't want to be trying to fit that on the model and trying to hold it upside down and the aerial's trying to fall away from you, and all this is on there, and oh dear dear. So I'm trying to do this model in sub-assemblies, which is why I'm going the way I am. So I've also glued this together. I chose to go with the lamp with I think it's a lamp with the cover on it. It's saying MC001, which is matte black, so maybe it's not a lamp, I don't know what it is. It's probably some sort of receiver or something, I don't know. So I'm talking rubbish. But that basically glues up in here between those two lugs. If you remember, I snapped one off and then there's that lug there. So that basically glues in there like so. So you can see that, and I've also made up this cross beam that goes in here, and that's going to need a little bit of Mr. Surfacer in those seams. Just get that out of the way and then sand that flat. So there we go, guys. I am going to call that a day for part 5, isn't it? Because I'm not really going to start adding any more. These plates here are going to go on, as you can see, but before I do that I want to make sure I've got paint in these areas here, because painting through them, I'll show you them on the sprue. There's that thing there. It's like a seat base or something. It's probably something they stand on. So that's going to glue in there like that. And as you can see, I want to make sure I can get paint under it, because I'm not going to get paint through those holes. I also want to paint the top of that before I put it on. So I'm not going to put those on yet. As I say, I've already done this. I've done that D41 part. This antenna I've built up, and I've masked off the lenses on these lights with Mr. Hobby. It's not as nice to use as the Viejo because it dries so fast. You can see there it's quite lumpy. It dries really fast. What you do is you just let it dry and then push it away. But we'll see how it comes out. If it's really bad, I could just scrape around and then put some clear red on there. I'm assuming it's going to be clear red. MC103 is transparent orange, so they're going to be clear orange. They're going to look nice. So yeah, that is basically, other than these railings, that is the launcher finished. Oh, I can go on and add these in, can't I? So let's put those in. No, I can't put those in yet because I need to be able to... I haven't fitted these arms on here yet. They go inside, and I need to be able to spread them about. So let me have a look at what I'm going to do about that, and then I'll come back to you. We haven't finished this yet. Right then, guys, now we can call it a day for part 5. As you can see, I fitted these two triangular sections here onto the back of the launching area, and they are actually fitted here. You can see here these two parts there and there, so they're in. And then we've got these in the final stages, in fact the last stage of the launcher. You've got these two pipes, these two bars going in, C1 and C2. C1 is actually longer than C2, so when you get them cut off and cleaned up, a lot of cleanup involved. As I said, my C sprue's got this mismatch issue, so yeah, a lot of cleanup on them. What I've done, I've glued them in, but I've only glued them at the bottom end. Reason being is this needs to spring apart for this to fit in. So this is actually going to fit in between there. I'm not going to put it in now because the glue's not set, but basically what's going to happen is they will spring apart, that will snap in, and then I'll just put a drop of glue on there once it's all painted and everything. In fact, what I might do is actually fit this before I do the final painting, but I don't want it on there now, all flopping about and everything. So so there we go. It's as you can see, that's quite a little model in itself, that launching area. And then the rockets are going to, or the missiles are going to clip onto there. I think I can glue these up now. I think I know that I'm okay with them, but just want to check first. And yeah, I think the drilled out holes have added to the overall effect down in here. If you remember, we also drilled these holes out on the sides here. So I think that's all going to add to the overall effect once we got it weathered and everything. I'm going for version A, which is the tricolour black, green and grey finish. So I think that'll look quite nice. And there we go. So we'll call that a day for part 5, and I can only think that in part 6 we'll get on with this hull. We've got these railings to add and everything onto here, and also the doors, but before I put the doors on I'm going to paint around the door apertures just to make sure, and I'll probably paint the back of the doors as well, just to make sure under bright lights we don't see this bright tan plastic sticking through. So what I'll probably do is go around here with an airbrush with that XF27 black green and round there, and then when I glue them on, I know then, because there is quite an area of shadow behind them, so when I glue them on I know that we're not going to look down in there and see some bright tan plastic sticking through, which is what we need to avoid. So whether I do that as part of part 6 or I do that in between, I don't know. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll follow along if you are building this kit with this little mod with the brass pin, because as you can see, doing all this with it actually mounted on the model would have been a lot more difficult than doing it, and it's so easy just to mount it on like that. And then make sure these are out of the way, and then we can just drop it down in, and that's it. It's on. There is nothing else to worry about. Obviously I need to fit that steel cylinder into there, the steel ram, and as I say, that's going to go on there, and then the antenna is going to go on there. We've got this little unit here that goes in the front. Push that down on a polycap. Oh, there is a part as well which looks to me like an exhaust, but I don't know, it probably isn't. That piece there, C87, goes in the side here. I haven't put it on because in its current state it's just going to keep getting snapped off, so I'll stick that on. I've marked it in red so it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I'll stick that on when I'm ready to start the painting. So thanks for watching this one. I'll see you all back for part 6, and I really need to get another part of the Land Rover done, don't I? The short wheelbase conversion, although that's for some reason getting a lot of dislikes, so maybe people don't like what I'm doing, I don't know, but I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.